Now, you may have heard the phrase, plan your work and work your plan. That's kind of dangerous, because that implies that once you put a plan together, it's not going to change and you just work as hard as you can to stay on course. Okay, well, we live in a much more turbulent environment than that, and that may not be true. What progress measurement here is talking about is determining whether or not you're on plan, and then once you figure that out, deciding what to change. If you're off course, maybe you want to get back on plan, maybe you want to change your plan because the plan's no longer accurate. But you have to know where you are. Number 4, projects are about people. Okay, people have to communicate to work together effectively. So communication is one of those constant themes that's really important on successful projects. Number 5, and Versu calls it management support. I like to broaden it a little bit and say it's really sponsorship. A successful project needs to have an advocate, a powerful advocate who can knock down roadblocks, who can cross silos, who can make things happen. Just think about projects that you've been involved in that didn't have a powerful advocate. How pleasant were those projects? Probably didn't move real well. Number 6 is related to number 1. So scope is a magic word in project management. It's a technical term. It refers to what's in and what's out, what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Number 1, agreement on goals, is technically called scope definition. So it's defining up front what you're going to do. Number 6 is having a method to change that agreement as you go through the project. We all know that what you plan to do at the beginning of the project is going to change. You need to have a method for managing those changes in an above-board way that makes well-considered decisions. Because not all changes are changes that you want to have. Some are, some aren't. Number 7, I think the Agile movement has really reminded us of number 7. How many of you are involved in any way in software development? Okay, not a big hit with this crowd. Well, you may not know, but Portland is one of the big centers for something called Agile and something called open source, 2 very big movements in the software community. Agile is a fairly complicated philosophy for how to develop software better. It's become very powerful and of great interest to a lot of software development companies. One of the things that Agile teaches is you have to be constantly close to your customer. And they've gotten a lot of good results out of that. So those are 7 of the big ones for project success. What would you guys add? If there was another open slot on here, from your experience, what's necessary? Yeah?
If you don't have the right team members, it's usually down.
Okay, the right team members. Bob's from HR, he'd agree with that, I imagine. Okay. Other ideas for what you'd add? Yeah?
Well, you need a project leader that's fearless.
Okay. Okay, so a fearless project leader. There was a survey done, I believe in 1998, on what the chief characteristics of successful U.S. project managers were. One of the items on that list was willingness to stand up to upper management, basically push back, be fearless. Okay. One more, anybody else? Yeah?
I would suggest you need a process by which knowledge is shared. The manager or the leader emphasizes that point so that the team works more effectively together to share knowledge.
Okay, so some kind of good knowledge sharing. All right. I owe the 3 of you candy at our next break, so don't let me forget. I'm not going to try to walk around the room now. Bruce?
Jeff, could you just speak a little bit more about number 4, constant communications, just in terms of best practices you've seen work, or types of communications that are really squandered or just useless?
The first thing to know about number 4, Bruce's question, was this is not the project leader sitting there flapping their mouth off. Okay? This is enabling the people involved in the project to have effective communications. So it's an enabling and it's a facilitating role, not a talking role. From my personal experience, some of the best practices in communications are first sit down and deliberately think about who needs to be communicated to and what do they need to hear. Because there are a lot of different ways to communicate. There's a lot of different media, a lot of different channels. And you need to think about who your intended recipients are and how you're going to enable that. An example, I rescued a project in a great deal of trouble some years ago, a sequence in fact. And the VP who was sponsoring this particular project wanted to be communicated to with a weekly phone call on Friday afternoon. I think it was at 3 p.m., just a 15-minute phone call. If I did that, she was off my back. She helped me with all sorts of stuff, and everything was cool. But boy, if I wasn't at my desk at 3 o'clock, she got really worried. That particular stakeholder wanted that specific method of communication. Other stakeholders preferred a written status report. So people have very different methods that they want to communicate in. You need to understand who you're talking to and how they need to hear from you. Yeah?
Jeff, one of the things that I really found in working with project teams over the years was the reinforced connection of the ability to be honest in communication about what you learn in the project management piece. And where I saw it breaking down is when there wasn't honest communication of what really was the status of projects.
So Bob makes an excellent point, if you weren't able to hear it, that you have to have honest communication, especially honest communication about number 3, project management. I'm sorry, progress measurement. If you've seen people sandbag where they are and not want to report the bad news, okay, that's a problem. By the way, one of the characteristics of an effective project manager is, the phrase is having a reputation for an open door and an open mind. You're willing to hear the truth. You encourage people to say the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Okay, so that's takeaway number 1. Remember those 7 success factors. Takeaway number 2. For a project to be successful, you have to have some kind of structure around it. This is whether it's one of your consulting projects, maybe just a small little project, or whether it's one of your customers' biggest projects. It has to have a structure around it. The simplest structure I know of has 4 steps to it: define, plan, execute, and close. Now there are a lot of fancier structures. Some are quite complex, but simplicity has its value. And this is the simplest. Define what the project's supposed to do, so answer those why and what questions. Plan how you're going to get it done. Go do it, making appropriate course corrections where you have to. And then at the end, wrap it up. So transfer the results of the project to the right people. And here's a really important one. Learn lessons. So learn what you can from the project so you can be better. You, your client, whoever can be better next time. Deming's continuous improvement philosophy.